Don't scroll. I know that's what you want to do. I know something in you is screaming to look away, to protect yourself, to not read another word of what I'm about to say. Because somewhere deep in your chest, you already know. You've always known. And you've been running from it. But you can't run anymore. Not today. Not from this message. Because this message didn't find you by accident. It found you because the trap you've been living in, the one disguised as safety, as comfort, as love, is about to close. And if you don't see it now, you might not get another chance. So don't scroll. Stay with me. Just for a few minutes. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to hurt. But it's also going to set you free. You felt safe with your soulmate. That's what they wanted you to feel. That's what they created. That's the trap. Not a trap they set consciously. Not a trap with malice or intention to harm. A trap their wounds built. A trap their fear constructed. A trap that looked like everything you ever wanted, until it became everything you couldn't escape. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. And I mean right now, not after you've had time to process, not after you've talked yourself out of believing it. Right now. Because you've been living in a lie. A beautiful lie. A lie that felt like coming home. A lie that whispered, finally, and this is it, and you're safe now. But safety was never meant to be a cage. And somewhere along the way, the person who made you feel safe became the person you needed protection from. Not because they're evil. Not because they're cruel. Because they're wounded. And wounded people wound people. Even the ones they love. Especially the ones they love. Don't scroll. Stay with me. This is where most people look away. Don't be most people. Let me ask you something. And I want you to answer honestly. Not to me. To yourself. In the quiet of your own heart where no one else can hear. When did the safety start feeling different? When did the comfort start feeling like a cage? When did the person who made you feel seen start making you feel invisible? Think back. There was a moment. A specific moment. Maybe you've buried it. Maybe you've explained it away. Maybe you've told yourself you were overreacting, being too sensitive, expecting too much. But it happened. And something in you shifted. And you've never been able to fully trust that feeling of safety since. That was the first crack in the trap. The first time your soul whispered, something isn't right, and your mind talked you out of listening. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. Because the safety was conditional. You just didn't know it yet. The safety lasted as long as you didn't need too much. As long as you didn't ask for what you deserved. As long as you were willing to shrink, to accommodate, to pretend that their inability to love you fully was somehow your fault. The safety lasted as long as you were convenient. The moment you became real, with real needs, real feelings, real expectations, the safety disappeared. And in its place came distance. Confusion. Mixed signals. The slow, agonizing unraveling of everything you thought you had. And you've been chasing that original feeling of safety ever since. Thinking if you could just be better, smaller, easier, less, they would come back. They would love you again. They would make you feel safe again. But that safety was never real. It was a trap. And you've been trapped inside it for longer than you want to admit. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. Here's what the trap looked like. Here's how they built it. Not on purpose. Not with a plan. But built it nonetheless. First, they made you feel seen. Really seen. In a way no one ever had before. They noticed things about you that other people missed. They remembered things you'd forgotten you'd said. They looked at you like you were the answer to a question they'd been asking their whole life. That wasn't fake. That was real. That's what makes the trap so effective. The bait is genuine. Second, they made you feel chosen. Not just liked. Chosen. Like out of all the people in the world, they picked you. You were special. You were different. You were the one. That wasn't fake either. In that moment, you were chosen. But here's what they didn't tell you. Their ability to choose was shallow. It didn't go deep. It couldn't survive the messiness of real intimacy. Third, they made you feel safe. Safe to be yourself. Safe to be vulnerable. Safe to let your guard down. Safe to believe that this time was different. That was the trap. Because the safety they offered was built on their terms. As long as you stayed within the boundaries they set, unspoken, invisible, but very real, you were safe. The moment you stepped outside those boundaries, the moment you asked for more, expected more, needed more, the safety vanished. And you were left wondering what you did wrong. Don't scroll. Stay with me. This is the part that will break something open in you. You didn't do anything wrong. That's the truth you've been running from. That's the truth that would set you free if you could believe it. You didn't ask for too much. You didn't expect too much. You didn't love too much. You loved someone who wasn't capable of loving you back the way you deserved. And instead of seeing that as their limitation, you made it your failure. That's what the trap does. It makes you blame yourself for their inability to show up. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. Because real safety doesn't disappear when you have a need. Real safety doesn't vanish when you ask for what you deserve. Real safety doesn't require you to shrink. Real safety expands. Real safety grows. Real safety says, tell me more, not, that's too much. What you had wasn't safety. It was a performance of safety. A rehearsal. A preview of something that could have been real if they had been capable of more. But they weren't. And they aren't. And pretending otherwise is keeping you trapped. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. I know you're defending them in your head right now. I know you're thinking of all the good times. All the moments that felt real. All the ways they made you feel loved. I'm not saying those moments didn't happen. I'm not saying they didn't mean them. I'm saying that moments don't make a relationship. And love that shows up sometimes but disappears when you need it most isn't love. It's intermittent reinforcement. And intermittent reinforcement is addictive. That's why you can't let go. Not because they're your soulmate. Because the trap worked. It hooked you. It got you addicted to the highs and blaming yourself for the lows. You've been living in a cycle. A cycle of hope and disappointment. Of closeness and distance. Of, I love you, and, I need space. And every time the cycle repeats, you try harder. You love better. You shrink more. You convince yourself that if you could just be the right version of yourself, they would finally stay. But they won't. Because the problem was never you. The problem is the trap. And the trap is their inability to be present, consistent, and real. Don't scroll. This is where everything shifts. Here's what I need you to understand. And I need you to really hear this because it's the key to getting out of the trap. Your soulmate is not a bad person. They're not evil. They're not trying to hurt you. They're wounded. And their wounds make them incapable of the kind of love you need. They can love you in moments. In flashes. In the good times. But they cannot love you through the hard times. They cannot love you when it requires something from them. They cannot love you when it means facing their own stuff. So they disappear. They distance. They go cold. And you're left holding the pieces, wondering what you did wrong. Nothing. You did nothing wrong. You just loved someone who wasn't ready to be loved that way. That's not your fault. That's not your failure. That's their limitation. And until you see that, really see it, you'll keep trying. You'll keep hoping. You'll keep believing that if you just try harder, love better, shrink more, they'll finally choose you. They won't. Not because they don't care. Because they can't. They don't have the capacity. And no amount of your love will give them capacity they don't have. Let me ask you something else. And again, answer honestly. To yourself. How many times have you made excuses for them? How many times have you explained away their behavior? How many times have you told your friends, you don't understand, they're going through something, or, they're not usually like this, or, when it's good, it's really good? How many times have you defended someone who wasn't defending you? That's the trap. That's how it keeps you stuck. You become their defender. Their advocate. Their excuse maker. You carry the weight of the relationship while they show up when it's convenient. And you call that safety. But safety doesn't require you to make excuses. Safety doesn't require you to explain away someone's absence. Safety doesn't require you to convince yourself that you're not being hurt when you are. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. Here's what real safety looks like. And I want you to hold this up against your experience. Not against what you hoped it would be. Against what it actually was. Real safety is consistent. Not perfect. But consistent. You know where you stand. You don't have to guess. You don't have to decode their texts or analyze their silence. They show up. Not every single time, life happens, but reliably. You can count on them. Real safety is transparent. You don't have to read between the lines. They tell you what's going on. They share their struggles. They let you in. They don't leave you in the dark, wondering what you did wrong. Real safety is mutual. You're not the only one carrying the weight. They show up for you the way you show up for them. They ask about your day. They remember what matters to you. They make an effort. Real safety grows. It doesn't shrink when things get hard. It deepens. It strengthens. It says, we're in this together, not, I need space. Does that sound like what you had? Or did you have something that felt safe when it was easy and disappeared when it got hard? Don't scroll. Stay with me. I know this is painful. But you need to see it. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. Because the safety was never about you. It was about them. About their comfort. About their convenience. About their ability to feel good without having to do the hard work of real intimacy. They felt safe with you because you made them feel good. You made them feel seen, wanted, loved. You gave them everything they needed without asking for much in return. And as long as that dynamic continued, as long as you gave and they received, the safety remained. But the moment you needed something back, the moment you asked for what you deserved, the safety disappeared. Because their safety was built on you giving. Not on mutual exchange. That's not love. That's consumption. They were consuming your love, your attention, your energy. And you were giving it freely because giving felt like loving. But love isn't supposed to leave you empty. Love is supposed to fill you up. Love is supposed to be reciprocal. Love is supposed to make you feel more like yourself, not less. What you had made you feel less. Smaller. Quieter. More willing to accept less than you deserved. That's not love. That's a trap. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. I know you're grieving. I know you're sad. I know there's a part of you that wants to argue with everything I'm saying because admitting it means admitting that what you thought was real wasn't. And that's devastating. But here's what I need you to understand. The love you felt was real. Your love was real. Your capacity to care, to give, to show up, that was real. Their inability to receive it without taking advantage, that was their issue. Not yours. You didn't love wrong. You loved someone who didn't know how to be loved. Someone who confused safety with control. Someone who needed you to be small so they could feel big. That's not your fault. That's their wound. And you can't heal it for them. You can't love them into wholeness. You can't give enough to make them capable of real intimacy. That work is theirs. And they may never do it. That's the hardest truth. Not that they don't love you. That they may never be capable of loving anyone the way you need to be loved. Not because you're not enough. Because they're not enough. They don't have enough capacity. They don't have enough self-awareness. They don't have enough willingness to face their own stuff. And no amount of your love will change that. Don't scroll. This is the part where you start to get free. Here's what I need you to do. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. I need you to stop blaming yourself. I need you to stop rehashing every conversation, every text, every moment, looking for what you did wrong. I need you to stop believing that if you had just been different, more patient, more understanding, less needy, they would have stayed. They wouldn't have. Because the problem was never your neediness. The problem was their inability to meet needs. You weren't too much. You were too much for someone who wasn't enough. That's different. That's everything. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. But traps can be escaped. Not by fighting. By seeing. By finally seeing the trap for what it is. Not as safety. As a cage disguised as safety. Not as love. As addiction disguised as love. Not as a soulmate. As a lesson disguised as a soulmate. And once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you can't stay in it. That's what this message is for. To help you see. To help you stop making excuses. To help you stop blaming yourself. To help you stop waiting for someone who may never be capable of giving you what you need. Not because they're evil. Because they're wounded. And their wounds are not your responsibility to heal. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. I know you're scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of starting over. Scared that if you let go of this person, there won't be anyone else. But here's the truth you need to hear. Being alone is better than being trapped. Starting over is better than staying stuck. And there is always someone else, not a replacement, but a possibility. A possibility of something real. Something consistent. Something safe in the way safety is supposed to feel. Not a trap. A home. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. But you don't have to stay in it anymore. The door is open. It's been open. You just couldn't see it because you were so focused on making the trap feel like home. It's not home. It never was. It was a beautiful lie. A comfortable cage. A prison made of hope and intermittent affection. And you deserve better. Not someday. Now. You deserve love that doesn't disappear. You deserve safety that doesn't require you to shrink. You deserve someone who shows up, consistently, reliably, without you having to beg. That person exists. But you won't find them while you're still trapped in this. You have to leave first. You have to stop hoping that this person will become someone they've never been. You have to accept that what you had, as good as it felt sometimes, was never going to be enough. And then you have to walk away. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just finally. Finally choosing yourself over the trap. Don't scroll. We're almost done with part 1. Here's what I want you to take with you. The safety you felt was real in the moment. But moments are not a life. And a person who can only show up in moments is not a partner. They're a visitor. A guest in your life who never intended to stay. You deserve a resident. Someone who lives in your life, not someone who visits when it's convenient. That's not your soulmate. That's a fantasy. And it's time to let it go. Not because you don't love them. Because you love yourself more. That's not selfish. That's survival. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. But traps only work if you stay in them. So stop staying. Breathe. Put your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. You're still here. You made it through part 1. And part 2 is where I tell you how to get out. How to heal. How to stop going back to someone who can only love you in pieces. But for now, just sit with this. The trap was real. But so is your freedom. And freedom is closer than you think. Don't scroll. Part 2 is here. And if you made it through part 1, if you stayed when everything in you wanted to look away, to protect yourself, to keep believing the beautiful lie, then you're ready for what comes next. Because part 1 was about seeing the trap. Recognizing it. Naming it. Finally admitting that the safety you felt was never real. Part 2 is about something harder. Part 2 is about getting out. And staying out. So take a breath. Stay with me. Don't scroll. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to require something from you. Something you've been avoiding for a long time. Courage. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The kind that chooses yourself even when it hurts. The kind that walks away even when every part of you wants to stay. The kind that finally stops hoping that someone who keeps hurting you will suddenly become someone who doesn't. You have that courage. It's just buried under years of making excuses, blaming yourself, and believing that if you just loved harder, they would finally change. They won't. And it's time to stop waiting for them to. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. Here's the truth you've been running from. The truth that will set you free if you let it. Your soulmate is not going to change. Not because they don't want to. Because they don't know how. Because they don't have the tools. Because their wounds are deeper than your love can reach. You can't love them into wholeness. You can't be patient enough, understanding enough, forgiving enough to heal what's broken in them. That work is theirs. And they may never do it. That's not your fault. That's not your failure. That's their journey. But your journey is different. Your journey is about learning to stop giving your love to people who can't receive it. Your journey is about recognizing that love without reciprocity isn't love, it's self-abandonment. And you've been abandoning yourself for too long. Don't scroll. Stay with me. This is where most people want to look away. Don't. Getting out of the trap starts with one thing. One decision. One moment where you finally choose yourself over the fantasy of who they could be. Not over who they are. Over who you wish they were. Because the trap isn't just their behavior. The trap is your hope. Your hope that one day they'll wake up and be different. One day they'll see you. One day they'll choose you the way you've always chosen them. That hope has kept you trapped longer than anything they ever did. And it's time to release it. Not because hope is bad. Because hope placed in the wrong person isn't hope anymore. It's denial. It's self-deception. It's a way of staying in a situation that's killing your spirit because you're afraid of what's on the other side. The other side is freedom. And freedom is scary when you've been trapped for so long. But freedom is also beautiful. And it's waiting for you. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. Here's what getting out looks like. Not all at once. Step by step. First, you stop making excuses for them. Every time you catch yourself saying, "They're going through something," or "They don't mean it," or "They'll come around," stop. Replace it with the truth. They are showing me who they are. And I need to believe them. Second, you stop waiting for them to change. You accept, really accept, that this is who they are. Not who they could be. Who they are. Right now. Today. This is their capacity. This is their willingness. This is their love. And you ask yourself, is this enough? Not, could it be enough someday? Is it enough right now? If the answer is no, and you know it is, then you have your answer. Third, you start choosing yourself. Not instead of loving them. Before loving them. You put your oxygen mask on first. You start paying attention to what you need, what you feel, what you deserve. And you stop giving those things away to someone who can't return them. Don't scroll. This is where it gets real. You're going to feel guilty. That's part of the trap. The trap has trained you to feel bad for wanting more. To feel selfish for expecting reciprocity. To feel like you're asking for too much when you're asking for the bare minimum. That guilt is not your truth. That guilt is the trap talking. The trap wants you to feel guilty so you'll stay. So you'll keep giving. So you'll keep hoping. So you'll keep blaming yourself for their inability to show up. Don't listen to the guilt. It's a liar. Here's the truth. You deserve someone who shows up. You deserve someone who doesn't disappear when things get hard. You deserve someone who loves you consistently, not just when it's convenient. That's not asking for too much. That's the bare minimum. And the fact that you've been convinced otherwise is proof of how deep the trap goes. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. I know you're scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of starting over. Scared that if you let go of this person, there won't be anyone else. But here's what I need you to understand. The person you're holding on to isn't there. Not really. You're holding on to a memory. A hope. A fantasy of who they could be if they finally got their act together. That person doesn't exist. And waiting for them to exist is keeping you from the person who does. There is someone out there, maybe you haven't met them yet, maybe you have. Who can love you the way you need to be loved. Who won't disappear. Who won't make you guess. Who won't make you feel like you're too much. But you won't find them while you're still trapped in this. You have to leave first. You have to choose yourself first. You have to be willing to be alone rather than stay in a situation that's slowly breaking you. Don't scroll. This is the part where you start to get free. Here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. I want you to write down the truth. Not the fantasy. The truth. Write down how many times they've let you down. How many times you've cried. How many times you've made excuses. How many times you've felt alone even when they were right there. Write down what you actually need in a relationship. Not what you're willing to settle for. What you actually need. And then compare. Look at the gap between what you need and what they're able to give. That gap is not going to close. Not because you're not trying hard enough. Because they don't have the capacity. And you can't give someone capacity they don't have. That's not your fault. That's not your failure. That's just reality. And reality, as painful as it is also freeing. Because once you see the gap, you can stop trying to close it. You can stop blaming yourself. You can stop hoping that if you just love harder, they'll finally become someone they're not. They won't. And you can stop waiting. Listen to me. Your heart needs this right now. One more thing before part 2 ends. Getting out of the trap doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you stop loving them at your own expense. You can still care. You can still wish them well. You can still hope that one day they heal and grow and become capable of the kind of love you needed from them. But you don't have to wait for that day. You don't have to put your life on hold. You don't have to keep giving your heart to someone who keeps dropping it. You can walk away with love. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. With the quiet, sad, powerful recognition that they couldn't be what you needed, and that's not your fault. And then you can start building a life that doesn't revolve around waiting for them to change. A life where you are the priority. Where your needs matter. Where you don't have to shrink to be loved. That life is waiting for you. But you have to walk away from this one first. Don't scroll. We're almost done. Here's what I want you to take with you from part 2. You felt safe with your soulmate. That was the trap. But traps can be escaped. Not by fighting. By seeing. By finally seeing that the person you're waiting for doesn't exist, and that you deserve someone who does. Not a fantasy. A real person. Who shows up. Who stays. Who loves you without conditions. That person exists. But you won't find them while you're still trapped. So get out. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just finally. Finally choose yourself. Finally stop hoping that someone who keeps hurting you will suddenly become someone who doesn't. Finally accept that the safety you felt was never real, and that real safety is still out there, waiting for you to be brave enough to go find it. Breathe. Put your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. You're still here. You made it through part 2. Part 3 is where I tell you how to heal. How to stop going back. How to rebuild yourself after the trap. But for now, just sit with this. The trap was real. Your pain is real. But so is your freedom. And freedom starts with one decision. Choose yourself. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Now.